Earthship, it's kind of like a Noah's Ark that you can navigate the Earth with. Ships, sailboats are self-sufficient because they have to be. You know, if you're out on sea for, you know, months at a time, you have to be completely self-sufficient. And it's basically the same concept, but on Earth. So yeah, come on in. This building, you have the greenhouse, which, you know, works as a buffer zone, so you're always comfortable. You always have a comfortable temperature inside. You grow food. You're recycling your gray water and your black water in a non-contaminating way. You're only on solar. You catch rainwater for all the water that you need, so for washing and for drinking. And about 50% of this building is made out of recycled materials. Taos is an amazing place to have a lab for these things because it is such extreme climate and such an extreme environment. But if it works here, it'll work everywhere else in the world, you know.
Plants look great you don't get a lot of water here, right?
No, not at all. Just with the water that you use, that's enough, because every time you wash your hands, every time you take a shower, that water goes straight in here, waters your plants, the plants filter that water, and then you're using that water to flush your toilet. So yeah, I mean, that to me, that's, you know, one of the things that attracted me to Earthship, because it's just genius. There's a lot of other buildings that can have solar power or that use insulation, or there's different building techniques, but this water recycling system that Earthships have, that's unique to Earthships. You'll see there's a split. So you have a toilet and a sink here, and then the shower is actually on the other side of the greenhouse. And so that way you can actually see when you shower there, that water then flows all the way through this greenhouse, through this planter. This is all a little bit sloped so that it all, you know, goes downhill basically. And then here is where you capture that water again, that filtered water, and it goes over there to flush your toilet.
It's basically quite low tech, but it's very, you've proven it in several buildings already.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's been proven over the last 30 years, yeah.
And your toilet flushes. And it drains into this planter. It's called a botanical cell. And all these plants, their roots go down and they get that water. But as they get that water, they're spitting out oxygen. And as they spit out that oxygen, it cleans up that water. Now, it produces food, figs, bananas, grapes. I forget what these little things are, but they're rich in vitamin C.
Inca berries.
And what are they?
Inca berries.
Inca berries. Avocado tree. So you are cleaning up your water while you provide food and flora. Now you're seeing that we use the water more than one time. We use it 3 or 4 times, and we run the shower water through this and then flush the toilet with it. And then the toilet goes out to a conventional septic tank, and the conventional septic tank drains into another botanical cell outside that we use to grow plants outside in this arid climate.
Mike likes to call these plants shit eaters, and that's what they are. They're just eating up all the shit. You don't smell it, you don't see it, but what happens is you get beautiful landscaping, and I never have to water any of this.
It's very low tech, and that's what's so great about Earthships, you know. And for a long time, one of the big things that people criticize about Earthships is that they are so low tech. You know, people are like, oh, there's much more high-tech solutions out there right now. You know, why are you guys doing things so low tech? You know, why do you open up your window with a rope and things like that? Yeah, so this all has to do with the cross ventilation of the buildings. Inside there is the cooling tube, so you basically open up a little door and you get cold air coming in from the north side of the building. That's cool. And then you open up this transom up here, and basically that's what does the cross ventilation. So the cold air comes in and flows up through here, and that's what keeps the building so nice and cool always.
It is cool.
It's funny because now that there is a bit of a global crisis or global challenge and people don't want to rely on technology anymore, now people are actually coming back to us and saying like, oh, that's actually really cool that it is so low tech because you're not relying on anything like that. So this is one of the bedrooms. So this is a cooling tube that comes out here. So that's basically a long 20-foot tube that goes all the way through the berm in the back. And if you stand in front of here, it's just like air conditioning. I mean, it's just beautiful how cool it is. It's basically that whole tube is buried, right? So there's dirt all around it. And so that thermal mass is what keeps it so cold. If you bury a hole in the ground, if you bury long enough, the dirt down there will be cold always. So that's basically how it is. So it's all natural. It's just absolutely natural cooling and heating. And in winter, if it gets cold, you just close this and close the windows, and then the greenhouse has that buffer zone and it keeps it nice and warm in here. This is where your systems are. So this is what we call the POM, the Power Organizing Module. So this is basically where all your solar comes in. Then you have the inverter here and your charge controller. And in here is your batteries.
So it's really all about storing that energy.
Absolutely, yes. And it's storing the energy both in power or electricity, but also in terms of the heat. I mean, that's what thermal mass does as well. That's what you're doing. It's basically just storing. So yeah, I mean, these walls, that's how they work. So when it's hot out, you kind of want your building to heat up as much as possible, because then at night when it gets cold, those walls are like a battery, basically. That heat will come back from it slowly during the night and keep you warm.
So you have two types of batteries. One is more basic and the other is a little bit more complex.
Yeah, you could say that. And then these walls are all adobe, that's all mud, it's all natural material. And you can even see the little bits of straw in there that hold it together. And I mean, that's what gives it that really, that really special feel that I always get in Earthships, is that you have all these natural materials around you, it feels great. So in here is your water organizing module, your filters and your pumps. So the rainwater on the roof falls into those cisterns on either side, and then from there it comes through here, and there's a number of filters to basically make the water safe for you to be able to bathe in it and drink it. So this is a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom. So this is a living room. So this floor is actually it's a ferrous sulfate powder that's used in agriculture, basically to make the leaves of your plants greener. And so we found out that you can use that to stain concrete floors, and it comes out with these really nice patterns. Yeah, and it just looks really nice with a natural wall and all that. And this is a DC fridge, so it's only on solar directly. And yeah, and then you have the water here coming through those filters that we looked at earlier, and this is your drinking water. And then you can just imagine that water that just went in there went directly to the plants to water the plants. So, and then you'll use that same water to flush your toilet.
How many gallons do these homes capture a year? Do you know? Like enough for a family?
Oh, totally, absolutely, yeah. So basically, we calculated, depending on where we're building and what the use and the occupancy of the building is, and how much rain there is, and how big the building is, we calculate how much water storage you're going to have.
So the home is pretty much self-sufficient.
And that's the thing. It's like this whole thing now with the pandemic and the quarantine and all that. We're like, well, we've kind of been living like this for years now already. It's not that much of a change for us, because this is what we do. There you go. Air conditioning on. So that's the tire wall, and they come out pretty much to where my hand is right now. That's all old tires that would just go straight to the landfill, and we use them as walls.
We are pounding tires today on our second day at the Encounter 3. And so the pounded tire is a great source of thermal mass, as well as a very problem piece of garbage everywhere. So you are getting rid of a problematic piece of garbage, creating a thermal mass wall, and you can actually bear the load of a roof on it.
Could anybody learn to build this way?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I built my own without knowing much of anything. Some of our crew, they're building their own homes,
So this is the Encounter. What is this?
Okay, well, the Encounter, you can see all the buildings around here, and so we've had a lot of different models over the years, starting with a U module, which wasn't super performing, and so then we've tried to get better and better and better, and then we came up with this model called the Global model, and it performed great and didn't require any mechanical heating or cooling at all in this climate, but it was kind of expensive. The Encounter is an effort to get similar performance, but reduce the cost per square foot.
So you can see tire work's getting there. I think we have about 2 courses left on the back wall here. Inside you can see our tire foundations. These are for the inner and outer greenhouse. So there'll be 2 vertical walls here with glass in them and doors to pass through.
The roof is easier on this building. You know, also the exterior greenhouse is just a simple vertical greenhouse consisting of standard size glass. So it's just when you can reduce how long it takes to build something, you're going to reduce costs. This crew just built that building in 4 months. That one was $219,000. And it's a totally autonomous building that gives you everything you need for survival with very little bills.
You can see how big this roof is. The reason it is so big is because this is where you catch all your rainwater that you are then going to filter and use for your consumption in the building. So this is the Encounter model Earthship. So in a global model Earthship, and if you look at all the ones that are around, the roofs, it will slope to the north and the water cisterns are buried in the back of the building. So all the water flows that way and then goes into the cisterns there. With these ones, they're sloping the other way. And if you look over here, you can see that there's a gutter on the south side and we're actually standing on one of the cisterns here right now. That's the cool thing about that is that with a north-facing roof, in winter and extreme temperatures, a lot of times the water will freeze. So we need to use glycol, we need to use different techniques to unfreeze that water. Whereas if it's south-facing, because you always have the sun shining on it, it won't freeze. So it's even more low-tech than what a global model is. The other thing with these buildings is you can see there's absolutely not one single penetration in all of the roof. So everything, all the vents, everything, all the holes are coming out the side. What that does basically is that you never have any leaks. And then you can see that gutter all the way to the front, which collects all the water coming from the roof and goes into the cisterns on each side. These are the transoms, which is basically the other side of your air conditioning. That's the window that I was opening up before from the inside, where you basically have that cold air coming through that tube and then it rises up as it gets warmer and comes out here, and that's what creates that air conditioning. These are your solar panels, so you have 6 solar panels. This building has just been completed, that's why it kind of looks, you know, a little bit ugly and it's just like basically a big mountain of dirt. But over time, it'll just be this beautiful grassy hill basically, and you get wildflowers on it and everything else.
Do you call it underground, earth integrated, bermed? Or?
Bermed, yeah, because it's not really underground. It's, you know, the old Earthships, those were built underground, so that you would actually, they're called pit houses. But this does make a lot more sense because you can build them anywhere, you know, you don't need to be putting all that energy into excavating a hole. This is one of the changes that we've made in the other buildings now, is that we actually have like a little door that you can open and close, rather than just having, this is just basically a plug of insulation that you put in there if you want to close it. So yeah, so basically in winter, you just plug them and that's it. And so that's insulated. The concept of thermal mass is a really old concept. That's the beauty of it, is that it is so low tech that a lot of it is technologies that have been used for thousands of years, you know, and Earthship is really the only building though that puts all of those things together and makes it one functioning building.
How many homes here?
I think it's just under 100.
Okay.
And there's more Earthship communities in Taos. This is not the only one. This is the biggest one. We said for a long time that it's the biggest self-sufficient community in the world, but that's actually not true. The Buddhist monks in India and in Tibet and so on, they are the biggest self-sufficient community in the world. This is this street is called Lone Tree Lane because, you know, you can see that there's this one tree in the middle of nowhere.
That's so fun. Do people make the Star Wars analogy a lot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, imagine driving by here, you know, and all of a sudden you see this and you're like, what is this? You know, where did I just land? And then the tropical airships, like the one in Puerto Rico, Mike loves comparing that one to the Lord of the Rings. He calls it Rivendell.
So how many types of Earthships are there?
There's a lot of different ones. Yeah, I mean, the main ones are like the global model, the Encounter, which we just saw, the Simple Survival, which is like the most basic Earthship that there is, that also has very basic systems. And that's what a lot of people didn't like about them, because you did have to restrict yourself a little bit in your water use, for example, and things like that. So these are all global models that we can see here now.
Okay.
This is the older global model, and then the one that we're going to go see now, those are like the newer global model, which has that bigger greenhouse. You can see the roof is getting put on. You can still see the cistern. In this case, the cistern is in the back. They're usually between 1,000 and 1,700 gallons. So yeah, I mean, this is, you can see that that it is a lot bigger than what we just saw. The greenhouse is a lot bigger as well, but still exactly the same principles. This is basically just aluminum cans that, would otherwise either be recycled or land in the landfill. In Taos right now, the recycling station closed down a few months ago, so there's absolutely no recycling of glass bottles or cans anymore, which gives us even more of a reason to use them here. You can see here the tire wall, and it faces north a little bit because then you have that dirt pushing against it from the other side and creating that physics force basically that makes that wall stand. And then the roof is different here. Here we used what we call vigas, are locally sourced. Instead, they're basically round beams. In New Mexico, they're called vigas. And then you can see the beginning of bottle breaks over here. So all these are just old bottles that are basically cut in half. And what you do is you just put them together. You clean them, you put them together, and you put a piece of tape around them, and you have a brick. And usually what you do is you put the colored one towards the sun. And so that's what makes it shine in those beautiful colors where it almost looks like a jewel.
So the tires are usually how many levels? How many layers?
Between 9 and 13. I mean, these walls, we put a little bit of cement in it for what we use pack out, which is basically just to give it a little bit of structure and to cover the dirt in the tires. But it usually only gets like one level, and then we use mud. So, the walls, the structural walls of the building are basically just tires and dirt. There's no cost to it, besides obviously the muscle strength that you're putting into it. We kind of go through this thing where you're like, you start a build and you get really fit because you spend 2 weeks just pounding tires. And then you kind of go on to other things, to carpentry and whatever, and you kind of get like all fluffy again. And then you start another build and you get really fit again. So yeah, I'm gonna go pound tires tomorrow. So. I mean, it's hard work, pounding a tire, but it's something that anybody can do. But I mean, that's the beauty. It's that you could literally get, 20 of your friends together, 10 of your friends together and just say like, hey, let's build this. And anybody can do it. It's that easy. Taos is like, people say either you love it or you hate it because it's a desert, it's not, Taos can be quite challenging as well sometimes,
But even this kind of work is, physical labor is not for everyone, especially the way we grow up these days.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But it's also, as I say, we get people from all different backgrounds and age groups and fitness levels, and there's always something to do, for everyone. There's always, if you can't pound tires for whatever it is, you can do other things. You can make bottle breaks, there's always something. And that's kind of the beauty of it, is that you need strong people and people that are not as strong and people that are skilled and people that are not as skilled to put it all together as a community and create these beautiful buildings, So yeah.
Feel any different from a conventional neighborhood living here?
I mean, you kind of have exactly the same dramas and in every other, community of neighbors for sure. But you could definitely feel that everybody's so environmentally conscious, Everybody's here because of the same goal at the end of the day, And that's beautiful. It's really nice. You can definitely feel that you live in this community where everybody just has the same idea about, living and about raising their kids and about what the future is going to be like, One of the neighbors here, he actually said to me the other day, the people that live here were all people that have opted out. We have, we all kind of opted out of the system, and that's why we're here, which is very true, We kind of took destiny into our own hands and are like, well, this is, a little bit better. So this is where I'm staying at the moment, but keep in mind this is still a work site, so, excuse the mess. This is the main part over here, and this is So basically the Earthship that we just saw, this is basically from here to there, this is what it will look like at some point. The plants here are incredible. I mean, that banana plant, we've got all these different types of chilies in here. And all the plants just absolutely love it in here. The rosemary is just going crazy in here. The figs are almost ready, but you can see how many are on here. You know, and now in summer, you see this and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But if you're in here and it's 15 degrees Fahrenheit below zero outside and you're growing pineapples in here, you know, and see the snow lying on the ground outside, I mean, it's just a trick. I mean, the bottom walls in this building are just
gorgeous, yeah.
And a lot of people don't like that out Earthships, you know, that Gaudi-esque thing, but, you know, you can also make it as simple as you want, you know. So yeah, this is kitchen, dining, living room. So this actually has a conventional fridge. The power system in this building is big enough to just have a conventional fridge in here.
Do you think this can scale?
Well, I mean, hopefully, you know. There's also a lot of criticism against Earthships, you know. People are like, well, a lot of people say Earthships are like the dinosaurs of alternative construction. This one even has a bathtub in it. I mean, how far you can take it. You have enough water storage, you can have a bathtub in here. Yeah. And then this is the second bedroom, which is a little bit bigger, but still, same concepts. Mm-hmm. And then in here, we have, this is a reception cell, so again, your shower water goes in here first, gets filtered. There's obviously buildings that automatically have blinds opening and closing, which are all things that you could integrate into an Earthship if you wanted to. But that's also one of the beauties of it, is that it is so low tech, you know, and we kind of want to keep it that way.
And the window system is different.
The vent boxes? Yeah. I mean, the concept is exactly the same. You still have the cooling tubes coming through. And then instead of having the windows on the vertical, you have them up here, up the roof. Yeah, so basically it's just a system that has counterweights on the other side. Open again, yeah. And that's open. And that's your air conditioning.
No engines involved, no batteries, no...
Nothing, yeah.
It's just kind of
It's like a ship, you know, this is like, that's why we like the rope thing as well, because it is like a ship, like a sailboat, you know. Yeah. There's Earthships, there's one Earthship here where they actually have put in the technology to automate this. But is it necessary? No, you know, yeah. These are gooseberries. In places like LA and in New York, they're considered a superfood and they're extremely expensive. And they're just like little sweet berries. We kind of have this education system, which is kind of, I feel like, global in the more developed world, where we're like educated but away from nature in a way.
You can even go foraging inside of your own house, right? It's,
yeah, oh really? Here, wanna try it? And now people are kind of forced to look at it the other way and look at it in a way of like, okay, we need to embrace the environment, we need to embrace the planet and nature and make it work, that we can live in conjunction with that. Here, you basically live in these living buildings. There's a bird in here. Oh, get out! Hello? Is there stuff? Huh? There's like little bird's nest in here. You get that a lot with Earthships because they are so natural, you know. I mean, that's part of it, you know. It's like living more in conjunction with nature, is that you have bird's nests in your house and they don't bother anybody. They're, you know, as free as everybody else. Yeah.